Hi, it's TC here, working on the 2 litre Mazda 626. It's a 2001, it's just turned 240,000 miles, so it's done some mileage. I've just done an oil change because it's burning a little bit of oil, but I've got an MOT in a few weeks' time and noticed the front drive shaft gaiter was leaking. It's got a pinprick of a hole. I've tried sealing it up with different things, but nothing seems to be sealing it. I took the bottom clamp off and took off the hub, said it was completely detached, but it's stuck on the splines. I just couldn't get them off even with a puller. It just wouldn't pull off at all. As it's quite old, it's got a few problems. So what I've got, rightly or wrongly, is a split boot. And what these do is they wrap around and you put the glue down. The two halves go together, you hold them for a few minutes and they glue together. I've used them before with varying degrees of success. One lasted a few years, one lasted a couple of weeks. So I've washed my hands, there's no grease on it, everything's clean, so I'm going to go on and fit him on. One other thing I'm a bit concerned about is there's not a lot on this one. Some of them have a large tongue and groove that actually does slot right in, but on this one, don't know if you can see that or not, the tongue and groove is almost non-existent on this boot, so I'm not impressed with the design of it. So we just have to see how he glues together. Okay, so I'm going to pull the front wheel off and have a look. Okay, so there's the old boot. I've cleaned it all up again, but it's got grease on it still coming through from somewhere. You can probably see on there where I've tried patching it with different things and they just rip off after a few days. Once you get grease on there onto something, you just can't stop it. I did take the bottom joint off the bottom and all these off so that everything was cleared. Took the nut off the end, but the spline, it just would not pull off. The hub wouldn't pull off the splines, so God knows what's up with that. I even put a pulley on there and it just would not pull off. So what I've got is the split gaiter. What I'm going to do first, there's not much room here, come around that side. What I'm going to do first is clean this shaft where I'm going to wrap the boot around. I'm going to put the new boot around here first and glue it on before I take the old boot off. Because if I take the old boot off, what I'm going to have is grease everywhere. It's going to be filthy. So I'm just going to clean this with a bit of white spirit on my rag. I'll find my rag. I'm going to put a bit of white spirit on the rag and clean the drive shaft off, and then put the new boot around, glue it. Takes a little while to get it all done, but with a bit of luck it will hold enough for the MOT. Okay, one thing I would say, if you're working on a car, there's my jack sitting there nicely, it's jacked up, but also underneath I've got an axle stand. That way if the jack fails and everything drops down, it's only going to drop down to about this height. So if I've got my legs under it, you know, it's not going to come down and squash my legs, and also it's not going to come down and damage the hub or break the brakes or lines or anything like that. So for about 19-20 pounds you can get yourself a set of axle stands, and they are really, really an essential tool to have. So let's clean up this shaft and put the boot on. Okay, the shaft is about the right size for this one here, but it's not there. That one's too small at the end there, so I've got to cut it off around the edge, just so that that's where the tie will go, on that edge there when I put it on. So I'm just going to snip this one off of here. Not very easy because the thing's round and trying to. So I'm just going to snip that off of there. Okay, I've cut the little end piece off there that was much too small for the size of the shaft, and hopefully now it'll fit through on that one there. So I've got to stretch it a bit now to make sure it wraps around the shaft before I glue it. Okay, it's been about 20 minutes, 15 minutes now. It's really difficult to get the because there's not much of a edge on it, trying to get them both all to seal in and seal correctly with the glue, and it's a real fiddly job, and I'm not 100% certain it's sealed, but it's on. I've sealed it up. I've even put my finger behind it and pulled it, and it seals it pretty well, actually, to be honest with you. The super glue is really strong, but I was just hoping it's sealed it completely. There's one up there that I'm not 100% happy with, but we'll have to see if it has sealed. Find out when we put the grease in and it all leaks everywhere. Okay, what I'm going to do now, the old boot is behind, which is fixed and glued together. As you can see, it's pretty strong, that stuff, as well. Once it's gone off, it's very solid. Just hope it can take the moving about. I will, once the glue's completely set at the front. There was a little hole when I pushed my finger through, because you can only do a little bit at a time. Some of them I've seen that actually clip together well. This one didn't have much of a tongue and groove, so you have to only do a few centimetres or so at a time, so it's very difficult. But what I'm going to do now I've put it on there, I'm going to take the old one off. It's a shame really, because the old one doesn't look too bad, but it is leaking somewhere, so it's probably perishing inside there somewhere. So I'm just going to pull that one off now. Just going to pop the clips, split the boot and take them off. Okay, there's the boot put back on now. You can see just there in view the join, the seam that was glued. I can't pull it apart, I've tried. It's solid, so just have to see how it goes and hope it holds. As I say, for some reason, I don't know why, but the splines on the front, on the shaft, are holding it in place. I just can't pop them off. But if this gives way, then I'll have to look at putting the other boot on. I've got another boot that's a proper one, not a split one, but I just couldn't get this spline to separate, so time will tell. We'll have to see what it's like, see what it does. Hopefully it'll hold and not leak. But I'm going to drive it around a bit today and have a look at it later on today, see if there's any grease anywhere on any of the joins, if it's leaking out anywhere. But other than that, let's put the wheel back on and we're done.